Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F122 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. You already see it. I hope you're having a great day, but yeah, practice and qualifying is already done as we're kicking off this episode. That's why the length is so short of 15 minutes. So my video corrupted of the qualifying and practice. So basically, here's what the situation is before we dive in. It's going to be raining in this Grand Prix, but we qualified in Q3. We got into the top 10, and there's going to be some grid penalties putting us further up the grid. We're just about to find out where. So that's really all you need to know, so I'm not going to waste your time. Let's head to the grid for the Japanese Grand Prix.
Welcome along then to the magnificent Suzuka International Circuit, a stone's throw away from Ise Bay in the beautiful Japanese countryside. What surprises lie in wait for us today at the Japanese Grand Prix? We're southwest of the city of Nagoya today at a wet and windy Suzuka circuit. 3.6 miles and 18 corners make up a lap here, with Sector 1 likely to prove especially difficult in these conditions. We should see overtaking into turns 1 and 16 today, and maybe a few Kobayashi-style dives into the hairpin as well. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, Golden Boy, and Albon, Perez, Bottas, Hamilton, they've taken a grid penalty, and Guan Yu Zhou, Russell, Vettel, Charles Leclerc, and Latifi, Ocon, Mick Schumacher. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Lance Stroll and Carlos Sainz. Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway.
I'm here with Gary Owen. So, Gary, a P9 finish as well as your teammate finished P10 in Singapore. You had to change your strategy for fuel saving. How do you feel about your strategy call at the end of the GP?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't want to make that strategy call, but it was honestly necessary, as unfortunate as it was. But we learned from it, and we'll learn for next season if I'm in the car. At least I don't know what's going on, but yeah, we'll wait and see. But yeah, hopefully we don't have to do that again today. You heard myself right there with reporter Mosk. We're ready to get racing here in the Japanese Grand Prix from a wet Japanese Grand Prix. There's some rumors, by the way, circulating that Penske deal that's taking over HAAS might actually be having some legal issues. So we're gonna have to stay in kind of connection with that. But let's get ready.
Here we go then, the formation lap is underway. These are wet conditions here today. Each driver will no doubt be mindful of the wet surface as they prepare to race around the track. We're almost ready to start the race as the cars take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
All right, everybody. I mean, it was an interesting up and down day in Singapore, or night, I should say, but it's a bit wet here today. I'm already feeling a little bit moist, but I'm going to give it everything I got today. Let's just stay smooth and have a fun race. There you hear myself on the radio too. The team, we are ready to get rolling here. What is this, our third maybe wet Grand Prix of the season? Correct me if I'm wrong. Third or fourth, I think it is here in our rookie season. We've been getting plenty of practice here in the wet conditions. You saw the grid penalties has moved us up quite well. Max Verstappen, though, has a golden opportunity to really increase his point lead over Charles Leclerc as well as Lewis Hamilton. We're P5. It's going to be lights out. We're underway. Lando Norris leads the field to the green, and keep in mind, Lando Norris has been in position multiple times in his career to win. He was so close in Russia in 2021. You see Ricciardo gets ahead of Verstappen into turn 1, so it makes it a McLaren 1-2, and that makes Lando Norris's chances of winning even easier now, as we as well saw Norris so close to winning in France this season here in our career mode until his engine failed in the later moments of that Grand Prix. When I say later moments, we're talking the final couple of laps, so it was so heartbreaking for Lando. You can see that though, everybody looking like a pretty clean and calm start. The AlphaTauris are at the back with Gasly, and Tsunoda Norris with a big slide right there on the exit of the right-hander. A heck of a save there from Norris, though, as he's being chased by his Australian teammate of Danny Rick. And you can see Alex Albon and the Williams just behind myself in 6th place. A great effort from him in qualifying as well. In the background, you can see already problems, wings flying everywhere. The safety car is actually going to come out immediately. Lance Stroll's way off the pace, but the safety car is out on this first and opening lap. You see the replay, and it was just an accordion effect here. A big stack up, and a bunch of drivers ran into the back of one another, and well, you can certainly see the damage is being done there. So safety car is out. We saw pit lane flooded by George Russell, Lance Stroll. You got the Ferrari of Sainz in as well, and you can see some drivers being held and whatnot. One of the AlphaTauris there, so a bit of an absolute mess on lap 1. I mean, nothing that impacted my race, so we were having a nice time still up here in P5, getting ready for some more racing, though. By the time we come through to the end of lap number 3, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo still out in front over Verstappen, Alonso, myself, Albon, Valtteri Bottas there in P7. But here we go once again, back to racing here. It was a very quick safety car because everybody was still, of course, so close together. So we're back underway. Lap 4. Here we go. You can see I give up about 0.6 of a second to the Alpine of Alonso, using some battery right there, though. You can see on the right bottom of the screen on the HUD, the battery number is white, which means just basically one of the engine components that has to do with the battery has taken some wear. However, it's raining here in Japan, so we shouldn't really need to rely too much on our ERS, so I wasn't really concerned about that impacting our race very much at all here. But you can see the gap opening up between myself and Fernando Alonso. This was kind of expected to be losing this ground to these guys that are so much faster than us, although we've been relatively close with Alpine at times, so I was a little bit surprised by that one, but I knew we were going to have nothing for, a guy like Max Verstappen. McLaren's been really strong lately. They've been getting better and better, and they are certainly proving that. I think Season 2, they could be really good, but do keep in mind we do have regulation changes on the way for Season 2. But you can see Albon now closing in on me, 0.6 of a second back, and it would kind of go back and forth. He was 0.9 of a second back as we came to the start of lap 8, and we just kind of kept going back and forth. That gap would, but as the laps were going on, and as that gap would go back and forth, the conditions were continuing to improve here, as I have an absolutely horrendous set of left-handers right here. That was embarrassingly bad, but we continue holding on. As you can see, lap 10, Norris, Ricciardo, Verstappen, they're all doing absolutely tremendous. Look at this, though. Lewis Hamilton, Leclerc, they have really not made up much time at all and are giving Max Verstappen a golden opportunity to get even closer to sealing the championship up right here today in Japan. Now, as we come through the penultimate turn, lap 10, you can see the conditions starting to get better and better as these laps go on. It was no longer raining on the circuit, so we are going to be switching over to the dry compound tire very, very soon. Lap 12, now we come through a few laps later, and you can see the conditions continuing to just on track get a little bit better, just seeing the small improvements, and I knew we were only a few moments away from coming in. It could even be lap 12, but it wouldn't be. Lap 13, we're still on the intermediate tires. It's still wet. Yellow flags out on the front straightaway. It's because Carlos Sainz has had a mechanical failure. Carlos Sainz out of the Grand Prix here in Japan. Very, very unfortunate there, and you can see, though, by the time we come through to lap 15, the conditions had finally drastically improved and had just improved enough to where it looked like it was time to come in and put on a set of mediums to just, well, quite simply take us to the end of this Grand Prix, which has been so good for us. We're still P5 because of the likes of Leclerc and Hamilton and just other drivers struggling to move forward in these conditions, but it was actually lap 16, I should say, when we come in to the pit lane here, right at the end of the lap, so you can see everybody in front of us. Lando Norris actually stayed out for an extra lap, so I was curious to see how that would work in his favor, or would that work against him, of course. But you can see Albon just behind myself. We had a battle with him in the last episode there in the Singapore Grand Prix, and we have been battling with him all Grand Prix long here today in Japan. But we come in to put on that medium compound tire, a very solid stop from the team actually, and we are going to be well out in front of Alex Albon as we head back towards the racetrack. It was a 2.4 second pit stop here, but you can see Albon actually right on my rear diffuser. As I said, we were well out in front of him. That was not the case, but the intermediate tires for Lando Norris actually staying out one extra lap on the intermediate tires actually did Norris more benefit than it did anything against him. He would actually increase his gap to Daniel Ricciardo after he had stayed out the extra lap. So it looks like everybody could have gotten away with staying out an extra lap, but I, of course, did not do that. So we come through to lap 17 and we're P12, but I was just most curious to see where we're going to cycle out here. We might be still P5, it looks like, which is going to be a very, very nice thing to have. You can see Albon continuing to put a lot of pressure on me as our teammate Mick Schumacher is now into the pit lane. He's had a rough Grand Prix and we were cycling through in front of him, and there we are, P7 actually. So not as good as I was expecting, because there you see Perez is now in front of us, but Zhou Guan Yu, he's actually able to get out in front of us as well. Daniel Ricciardo actually got overtaken by Max Verstappen in the pit cycle, so Verstappen up into second place, and it's game on. Can he run down the McLaren? Here I am now. My goodness, I nearly run into the back of Zhou there into the final couple of corners, but I decided to stay put behind him, and DRS was actually not yet enabled here, so we are going to have to straight up make this pass, and we're going to try and do that right here. We are fully blown on the ERS here, on that overtake button. Go for it, send it up the inside of Zhou Guan Yu, and it's an easy pass into turn 1, so up into P6 we go. And like I said, these treacherous conditions have really made it a great Grand Prix for us being here in P6 with the likes of Leclerc and Hamilton and other drivers that are faster than our cars struggling here today. It's given us the opportunity to have a very strong result here. Now, late in the Grand Prix, you see through the grid, it's Norris, Verstappen, Ricciardo, currently your top 3. McLaren really showing up here today as Fernando Alonso's having a great day. He had the podium finish in the last episode in Singapore, and he's backing that up with a 4th place effort now. Perez is not going to run him down, I don't think. You can see myself and Zhou Guan Yu, Alex Albon there just behind as well. But look at this, Mick Schumacher as well in the standings. So once again, just like the last episode in Singapore, looking like we're going to get double points for Haas, but it's not going to look promising when you got George Russell and Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc all running you down when you're in Mick Schumacher's position here. But you can see Stroll, Latifi, Ocon at the back. Ocon, of course, has had a rough Grand Prix right from that first lap safety car. But you can see an engine icon there on the right side of the screen. I think that was actually for the battery part that I had that was continuing to wear. But lap 23 now, 5.3 seconds behind Perez, and then 3.4 seconds ahead of Zhou Guan Yu. So we were driving away, and we were actually doing a very solid job keeping a consistent gap to Perez. Look at this. 5.5 seconds. Perez certainly not showing the most pace right now in that Red Bull compared to what you would expect out of that car. But only 3 laps to go. Just bringing it home at this point here, because we're not going to get run down by Zhou, and we're not going to run down Perez as that gap continued to stay about 5.5 seconds. And this was me putting in really good laps, and I just didn't have enough to really actually eat into that gap on Sergio Perez.
It looks like we might have an issue. Hang in there. We're attempting to manage it.
Well, it is now a race against a clock. It's 2 laps to go, and now we have a risk of retiring from the Grand Prix. Mark tells us there's an issue that is being attempted to be managed, but is it too little, too late? A great day here, a career highlight day so far in our rookie season in the Japanese Grand Prix here in Suzuka. But is it all going to come to a heartbreaking end with a mechanical failure? That's the question now. Usually it's within about 30 or so seconds, and there it is. You can see it looks like it's a gearbox failure. Yes, it is a gearbox failure. Our day is going to come to an end a lap and a half early. And just like that, instead of 6th place here in Japan, it's over. It's all over. We're out. Unbelievable. So unfortunate there. And you can see everybody going past on the left side in, well, a heartbreaking end to this race here in Japan. What can you do? At the end of the day, you know, it's a risk you take in Formula One. Your engine, any part of the engine can fail at any given moment, and just like that, we are out. It's not the first mechanical failure we've had this season. It is, what, the 3rd one, I believe, but Lando Norris does come through and sure enough hold on to get his first win of his Formula One career, and awesomely enough for him, he's got his teammate of Daniel Ricciardo there with McLaren joining him on the podium. Max Verstappen as well, a good friend of Lando Norris on the podium there in 2nd place. But really disappointing end to what was looking like an awesome Grand Prix for us. So it's kind of heartbreaking that it ends like that. And, you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. You look like, you know, you're finally having a huge moment in F1, and then it all comes crumbling down in a matter of seconds. So it is what it is. Albon with points for Williams. Our teammate of Schumacher got 2 points, which is great. Hamilton did not get any points at all. Leclerc did salvage a few. We got 4 points there with an 8th place result, but obviously still, at the end of the day, Max Verstappen was able to increase that point gap by quite a bit, and we're going to take a look at it right here with a handful of Grand Prix left. Leclerc needs to make up 32 points. Hamilton's out. It's not going to happen for him. Obviously, Sainz as well in Paris. It's all down to what can Leclerc do. We take one last look at the constructors, 2 points behind AlphaTauri. Let's hope we can bring the fight to them in the next one. I'll see you guys then. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, everybody.